It's Friday night, which means it's time for another episode of the Friday Night Nicktoons podcast. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Casey. We are here in person in Chicago, Illinois.
Woo!
I had tickets to Cubs playoffs that are not happening.
Woo.
Was very sad. Decided to come to Chicago anyway, and we have been having a grand old time. No fancy opening nights to go to this time, but lots of fancy late night hangouts in Chicago.
The fanciest.
Yeah, it's been great. So we are here recording in person on Friday, the day this episode releases. I'm not really going to edit. I'm just going to plop this into Logic and export it. It'll just be what it is. So unless we majorly mess up.
Yeah, apologize for that one in advance.
Right. Okay, so last time we watched our 6th Avatar The Last Airbender episode, and it was a very serious one, and instead of transitioning to another ridiculous episode like has been our tradition, we are getting to one of the not darker but kind of more upsetting Hey Arnold episodes.
Yeah, it really is. Arguably could have been in our disturbing episodes one, or unsettling a little bit differently though than I guess that episode was. But we also put out our weekly Twitter poll and asked the very serious question of who has the most or more ridiculous ears, Sokka or Momo. Momo won out with 56% of the vote, but that was pretty close.
I can hear Sokka using this over Katara now, being like, "See?" That is funny. I voted for Sokka.
I did too, just for the lulz.
Right,
because obviously, he has mostly normal ears, right?
Yeah, they're not that large. I suppose they're larger than other humans, and Momos are the same as any other lemur.
That's fair.
Monkey lemur? What is it?
Something like that.
Right, exactly. So, Momo wins. Another Twitter poll where there's not a ton to analyze here, except I am interested that our listeners definitely have this attachment to Sokka, in won't make fun of him, want him to go far, and
because you guys tend to go for the memes.
That's
true. You really do, and this is the less memey answer, right? Saying Momo has more ridiculous ears is just
It's
Anyways.
Probably technically true. But yeah, as we said, this week we're watching a Hey Arnold episode. It's called Longest Monday, and really excited to dig in. There's some really funny moments in this episode too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to chatting about this one. It's one of the ones that stuck with me the most from my childhood too. So we'll get into it. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at FNN_podcast and Facebook.com/FNN podcast, and review us on Apple Podcasts so that others can find the show. And be sure to check out our YouTube page too, especially for that Avatar watch through. We're getting a lot of good comments from you guys that we'll be reading soon enough.
Thank you all so much for tuning in. Now let's get started.
From the Nicktoon Animation Studio in Hollywood.
All right, like Casey said, our episode is Hey Arnold's Longest Monday. It was Season 2, Episode 4, and originally aired October 12th, 1997.
Yeah, and I think this is Episode 4A. I think I left that out of the... I actually don't even know if that number's right. I'm never sure what the actual official listing is.
It's somewhere in Season 2 for sure.
Yep,
so.
It's on Hulu. So, in this one, schoolyard tradition has it that on the first Monday of June each year, so the very end of the school year, the 5th graders throw the 4th graders into trash cans. So, Arnold and Gerald try to make a run for it. As more people are thrown into trash cans and the 5th graders know all of the routes, Arnold and Gerald find out eluding the 5th graders is harder than they thought.
Yeah, it's a wild concept. It's trash day. They're all together and they're all feeling pretty anxious about it, and they've got these maps and stuff, right? The 4th graders, because it's for whatever reason 5th graders versus 4th graders. Sure, it's a common line in this, but you can feel the panic and the camaraderie at the beginning too. They're like, we're gonna go through this. We're gonna make a run here, and then we get to the flower shop, and then we're safe. And it's you just feel the anxiety. And then we also flash over to the 5th graders who are practicing throwing this plush dummy into a garbage can and talking about garbage can strategies. It's kind of terrifying, honestly.
A lot of thought goes into it, and it reminds me when I was in 4th grade, we waged a war, a snowball fight on the 5th graders that had to be disrupted by all of the, like, parents who watch at recess. And that was all us, so that was all the 4th graders antagonizing the 5th graders. So kind of a similar concept, but less bullying and more just fun. And this truly is bullying. It is funny. We start out with Sid introducing Jared, introducing the legend, as is tradition. And, Sid, someone's sort of playing those bongos, and Sid's going, "It's been passed down from kid generation to kid generation for 3 years."
Yeah, and he says it with 100% sincerity, right? Like, 3 years is a long time in kid years, you know?
Oh, it's so funny. And, like, a generation is 1 year, which is true, but it's just, like, hilarious.
It makes you wonder how long these all of these legends are, but this one particularly.
Yep, and Gerald takes us to church right away. He does his sort of high and mighty storytelling. It's fire and brimstone, and he's talking about how, the 5th graders kind of sneak up on 4th graders and throw them into trash cans. And the animation of the trash, both in the storytelling and in the real event, is really gross. It's like this green slime, which I don't know what kind of trash cans they have there, but oof.
Yeah, it's pretty miserable looking. And honestly, so like, I forgot exactly how old I was the first time I saw this episode, but probably around when it first aired. And I thought that this was like a real thing. Like, you hit 5th grade or 4th grade and you gotta run to get away from the trash day, so it was kind of terrifying. It was really gross looking. I didn't want to be thrown in the trash. It doesn't make any sense, and thankfully by the time I hit 4th grade, I reasoned that out, but man, guys, I was scared. I was scared for this.
Yeah, it's definitely an episode I know I saw, and I remembered moments, but I didn't remember the whole arc of it. But as Gerald's telling his story, he goes, "One kid got it so bad he smelled like a dirty burrito until he was 14.
But I'm wondering, because how old are you in 4th grade?
Like 10, maybe?
So that would mean at least 3 years, or 4 years, sorry.
Yeah.
That it had to have been passed down.
Oh, that's true, which doesn't hold up, because how could he smell like a burrito until he was 14 if this had only been going on for 3 years?
That's what I'm saying. Unless
maybe he was 11.
And maybe he was held back. Anyways, guys, this is just me being stupid. You know how I do. We've got to talk about, too, that there's this whole great, like, generation situation where the 5th graders are, like, massive. They look like they're a good, like, decade older than the 4th graders. And the 3rd graders, we see them at the end, who are all worried about their potential upcoming trash day, are like, they look like they're 5. So, and that really is how it is, right? Kids' perspective, those age gaps make a much bigger difference.
Yeah, I love that they, like, animated and voice acted them that way. It's a very specific point of view because we're kind of watching it through Arnold's eyes, and through the 4th grader's eyes. But it is so funny when you're in that middle age, when you feel like everyone older than you is ancient and everyone younger than you is a total baby, which I still feel a little bit.
Yeah,
less so about the older stuff.
I'm an entire grade behind you, so I'm basically like still
you're a child.
like, yeah.
No, but it's like I think of like seniors in college now, and I'm like, they don't know what's coming when that was 2 years ago. For
That's
me
very
whatever,
fair. But I still love that they do that. They just have that whole look at how old and dark these 5th graders are. They're getting everyone, and really the beginning is just a lot of. They start at first. They're like, we're all gonna stick together. And then I think it's Harold goes like, every man for himself, as soon as the 5th graders show up. And they just like, we just see them getting shoved in left and right. Some of them, they're just kind of like chucked into garbage cans. Some of them are thrown into dumpsters. It's somehow like really violent though, like.
Yeah, it feels violating. It feels, they grab them really invasively and they like grab them by the armpits and just sort of hoist them like they're just like a piece of meat. It's kind of psychologically upsetting and you feel really bad for them. But then, everyone's freaking out, and then jumping ahead, because I assume most of you have seen this or watched it for this week, it's not that bad when they actually go through it, so they say. Although when Arnold and Gerald finally get it, they like roll down a hill. It's really like they could have gotten seriously hurt.
Yeah, well, God, it's such a beautiful, and we could talk about how they end up actually getting it in the end.
Yeah,
but it's such a beautiful build up too, and then it's like they probably get it worse than everyone else, and they're still just like, this isn't so bad.
Yeah. And Gerald goes, I got some locks in my shorts. She's like, are they in New York? Like,
somewhat,
bagel locks? Like, very funny.
But
what else
other things. There's this hideout, right? So
which is also great.
Yeah. So because they're running around and they find this hideout, and I forget what his name is. The kid with like the U on his shirt is like running this thing.
Yeah, he's got like the bangs.
Yeah, I don't even know if his name is relevant often in the show. But anyways, he's like, here's this sanctuary that we have set up, and we have medical services and showers, and we have psychological services too.
It's so cute, like the amount of work that went into this bunker, and you can get to that.
Yeah, I mean. First, I guess we'll just talk about it though. The idea, that like these fourth graders are really trying to keep themselves safe and help each other recover from this traumatizing experience.
And their lives are so unorganized, but they've built this institution, like this safety net. And
then they talk about their psychological services, and Helga is a therapist, and I'm blanking on the exact wording, but Harold's sitting there and he's talking about how bad it was. He's like, and they picked me up and they threw me in the trash and it was awful. Oh. And Helga just like slaps him right across the face and says like, get over it, you big dummy, something like that.
And she's listening and taking notes, like very insightfully, it appears, and then she just slaps him. That might have been the hardest I've laughed at a Hey Arnold joke, because it's not a like laugh out loud hilarious show, but that was for me. That was so funny.
Oh, it was great. It was great.
Especially because this episode was, I believe, after Helga on the couch, when she's already gone to therapy. And,
I can't remember for sure if we just watched that one out of order, because I feel like that one was later game.
Season 4, yeah. So she had not yet been to, that was 2 years later, I take that back. So that also makes sense, because like maybe if she had been to therapy first, she would have been more nicer to
but it's still just a great concept of them sitting there. Yeah. But then that gets, fifth graders find out about that too. Also, you really got to hand it to the fifth graders. They have a pretty solid methodology here.
They do. They're like bloodhounds.
They find them everywhere, right? This is like in the dump, and they find their hideout. There's a scene where they're like on a bus and they happen to be there, and they like trace them from there too.
Harold pulls the lever to get off the bus, and they think it looks like they're gonna escape, but then the bus driver closes the door down. You know what would have been a really funny gag is if it had been a fifth grader driving the bus the whole time, and he like pulls the. It would have been a little too surreal for Hey Arnold.
But it would have been gold.
Yeah. Or like they pay off the bus driver or something. But regardless, Harold gets got on the bus, and Arnold and Gerald escape. There's a trend of Arnold and Gerald running, and the people they're with getting it until they're the last ones left.
They just barely getting away, and because that's the thing too. It's not like they're just doing this at school; they're doing it across the entire city, right? They somehow know all the fourth graders, and Arnold and Gerald continue to be the most elusive pair here.
Yes,
they keep running, and they're feeling pretty hopeless, and they run into this guy, the Weasel.
I forget his real name. It's like Nigel or something.
But he's the Weasel. He's this little guy, and he's like, "Hey guys, I can get you out. I just Mickey."
Yeah, Mickey the Weasel.
And
what a great character. And he talks like this like back alley sort of like he's gonna sell you some counterfeit watch. He's got this like raspy voice. He's got a hoodie zipped all the way up and around his head. We see like hairs sticking out, but you can't tell what color his hair is. He's very undistinct, except for his nose, which takes up like half of his face. Fascinating character to me. He's in a few episodes, but this is his biggest episode for sure.
Yeah.
He basically is like, hey, I can help you out. Like, I can offer you protection from the fifth graders. And Arnold, being the naive waif that he is just like, okay, sure. And he goes, what do you got? And he goes, how about a yo-yo and this dog head thing? It's like a Pez dispenser or whatever. And he goes, half now, half later. And he takes the yo-yo, so they know he's legit. But it turns out he ends up turning them in directly to Wolfgang. He goes... They go, good job, Mickey. And he goes, well, that's why they call me the Weasel. And he starts laughing to himself. And they're like, shut up, Mickey.
Yeah.
like, I love this idea that he takes himself way more seriously than they do.
Yeah, there's like, all right, you got your stuff done, but other than that, we don't really need you, so you can calm down.
It's so funny because you think he's like their conniving villain, but really they're just like, okay, like if you want to help us,
Yeah.
sure, weirdo.
Works out well enough, but yeah, and then we get this other great moment where we have Arnold doing what he does. And he gives this just beautiful speech about, he's like, you know what? You don't really want to throw us in the trash. Like, you can do it, but you can also take this other path. And it's...
He goes, you're only continuing a cycle of senseless violence that will continue for generations. He makes a very good point. He's like, you could be the one to end it right now. And Wolfgang's like, maybe I am just perpetuating a cycle of violence that doesn't need to exist.
Yeah, he has like this great, he's like, I have considered the moral and ethical rationalizations, I've thought about both sides, and like
It's some of the best writing I've seen from Hey Arnold. It's
Yeah.
very funny that this, and like succinct and impactful. It's like, he could end it all, and he goes, but I'm just gonna throw you in the trash.
Yeah. It's very Wolfgang too, and I do like that, you know, he's a bully straight up, but I do like that they don't make him an idiot, right? Like he
weighs the pros and cons. It's like he did like a it's like he made a chart. He was like, okay, well, if I felt like I get to end the cycle, but also I get the rush of throwing them in the trash, and that outweighed everything for him.
But I think for him too, I mean, like, part of it is like, what benefit do I really get from ending this? I mean, like, do I really feel that bad? I don't know.
It's
Plus,
the whole assumption of economics, here we go, that humans do behave rationally for the most part, not always, but rationally in that you will do the thing that you want to do more in terms of the thing that you think will bring you the most satisfaction. So sometimes that's a short-term thing if it's a very high threshold. Sometimes it's a long-term thing if the short-term thing isn't as enticing. But we all make rational decisions. It's a Wolfgang making this choice where he has considered that he could be the one to end years of suffering and then to still choose this, totally meaningless action.
Oh, it's so good though. It's so, like, you kind of know it's coming, right? Like, he's going off for a little too long, like for it to end well.
You're like, there's no way he's gonna actually choose. It's like the SpongeBob reversal where everyone does the opposite thing that you expect them to for the comedy. It's that sitcom trope.
And I think as a kid, I almost thought, like, oh, the moral's gonna be like that you can, it's all gonna be over, and nope. He throws them in the trash. He throws them down an entire hill. They spiral out of control, and that's when we get the whole deal there. And they say it's not that bad, and then they see again some baby third graders who are like
they're watching in horror.
And I think they're actually kind of laughing too at first. They're like,
right.
ah, you got trashed, and then they're like, yeah, well,
you're not gonna do that to us, right? And Arnold goes, I don't know.
Yeah. I kind of like that concept, too. Like, at first, he's like, nah, we won't. And then, as they're walking away, they're like, well, but maybe we will. And it's kind of a funny thought, right, for our usually pure-hearted Arnold.
Right. Well, it's kind of like a thing we talked about at the bar the other day, that, in middle school, or in my K through 8 school, we worked your way to the back of the bus.
Yeah.
And when you're a little kid, you're like, when I'm an 8th grader, I'm gonna let anyone sit in the back of the bus. This is oppression. We would try to sneak into the back of the bus before they got there. It was coveted territory. And then once you get to 8th grade,
you're like,
all that goes away. You're like, it's really not, it doesn't matter because you figure it out. And you're like, but we're gonna take the back of the bus. It's really that exact same logic, except, obviously this one's way more damaging.
But still, I mean, I think the other thing too is it's not like they're doing this all the time. It's a one day extravaganza.
And they don't go to the 5th grade in the show, which is kind of strange because this is, or maybe they do.
They maybe do. They definitely don't revisit Trash Day, which, I mean, it wouldn't even be an interesting episode, to be honest with you. We could kind of just live with the idea that they may or may not continue it, but we don't need to see Trash Day.
That's true. You're right. Yeah, I don't think that could also. We have a Twitter poll picked. Oh wait, that is our Twitter poll.
Yes.
I was like, that would be a great Twitter poll. Is will they continue it or not? So yeah, that's what our Twitter poll will be. And I don't think they will. That's where I settle.
I feel like maybe they specifically wouldn't, but Helga and Harold for sure are going to be in on that kind of stuff.
I could see them adjusting it to something less mean. That's maybe we throw one piece of trash at them or something.
Yeah. I just feel like it's hard to say. You know, I don't know if Arnold and Gerald specifically would, but they also like there's the substitute teacher episode where they're really mean to Mr. Simmons when he's new, and like Arnold and Gerald buy into that. So like maybe the pressure could get to them. They are still kids.
They're still corruptible. Yeah, we talked about being mean to substitute. Oh, were you there at
yes,
that point?
Yes.
Yeah, we talked about being mean to substitute teachers too. And yeah, it's so easy to fall into that hive mind for sure.
And especially
Arnold's not above that. He's still a kid.
You know, he might be generally better, less susceptible than his others, it seems like on average, but yeah he's still a corruptible child at the end of the day. Let's not give him too much credit, but no, I just really do like this episode though. For some reason, it's kind of terrifying, and I think it does kind of show that sort of idea of just perpetuation of terrible things because it's the way that it is. I think almost also because of like it's like, well, we suffered through it, so you guys should suffer through it too.
And like once it happened to them, they were like, whatever. Like it's really not.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like fraternity hazing, right? You kind of like see where they're like, well, we had to get hazed, so now you guys have to get hazed.
That's true. That's very similar.
Yeah, obviously a different mentality a little bit there, but just kind of the same. Like, well, we went through this.
Right.
Stupid stuff, so you guys have to go through it too. You definitely see that.
Or it's like people talk about like if here we go, really getting into the gritty topics today. Like in terms of student debt, like if it was all forgiven right now for current students, would people who had paid it off be upset, or would they be happy that other people don't have to go through what they
I'll
did?
be honest, like I would be a dash salty just because I'm still paying it for years.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like.
But
I would be more happy, net happy,
right.
But in the moment, like
you don't
a little
wish
part
it
of
on anyone.
No, but a little part of me would be like, man, I wish I was born 4 years later. You know, like
right, exactly. Yeah,
like
so.
had to pick the wrong.
You know, that's not gonna happen.
No, but I mean, like I do understand the idea of, again, not enough that I'd be like, no, these kids need these loans, they need to suffer through.
Right,
but like,
right.
But
you gotta think logically about it. If there's no reason for it to exist, like, it shouldn't exist just because you had to go through a bad thing.
Yeah, but you do kind of see that too sometimes when like people are like, oh, I had to work out in these fields when I was younger, and now like these people have these cushiony office jobs, and it's like, well, if they don't need to do terrible backbreaking labor, why do you want them to? Just because
changes,
your life was hard, right? Like,
I'm sure we'll have things that will be like, we had to do this. I don't know. Life feels pretty easy in 2018.
Yeah, I mean,
in terms of the day-to-day life. Yeah, we won't get into the other stuff.
Yeah, but anyways, I think it's an interesting sort of psychological look at the fourth grader, fifth grader dynamic, and I just think it's kind of, I don't know if fun's exactly the right word for it, but it's more of that Hey Arnold lore going on, and it's a fun episode, but in a different way.
It furthers the whole Arnold isn't perfect thing, which is an important message of the show. It's like he's a protagonist, and he's a very good one, but he is fallible. He is considering throwing kids in the trash. I also wonder if Arnold's physically capable of throwing kids in the trash.
Well, but look how small those third graders were, Casey.
True.
So you gotta remember that.
But they'll be Arnold sized when they're in fourth grade.
Yeah, but then Arnold will be Wolfgang sized.
Yeah, that's true. That's
if we're following this terrible logic.
And Wolfgang will just be like 50 years old and balding when he's in 6th grade.
But no, it is, and I think that's one of the reasons that we like Arnold as much as we do as a character, is that he's not this perfect character, that he does have issues and struggles, and that he is very human. You know, you do feel for him, so...
And one last hilarious thing to me about the third graders being babies is they're like newsboys almost. They're like, hey, mister. It's like we're like...
You wouldn't do that, would you, mister?
It's like we're in 1910s New York, and they don't have the caps or anything, but I thought that was hilarious, that they talk to them like adults.
Yes. Oh, it's great. It really is. And I feel like that's kind of there too, right? Like you talked with more respect to those,
totally.
Those 4th and 5th graders. Those guys were up there back at the 3rd grade.
And now you look back and
I'm like,
it's
oh
they're
man,
all babies.
Like, like I could have distinguished now. Like if you third graders from 5th graders, I'd be like, I don't know.
Are you in kindergarten or are you in 5th grade?
Like somewhere in that range probably, but no, but it's a good one.
It really is.
I think that's all I've got on this one, but I'm glad we watched it.
Yeah, me too. Just we haven't done Hey Arnold for a while. Just a great show. So glad to get back into it. And I'm realizing I need to do a full watch through just on my own, like, soon, of Hey Arnold. So
yeah, because I have seen it in its entirety.
I need to catch up to you.
So
because you'll drop characters I haven't seen, and I'm like, what? They're like, oh yeah, Wolfgang, and I was just kind of like, oh yeah, Wolfgang. Totally know what he looks like.
Anyways, yeah, we'll definitely, at the very least on your own, you should watch through it. Can't quite make it with all of our Avatar.
We've got a lot, yeah. We've got a lot
going on, but good stuff. Are we good to conclusion?
Let's do it.
All right, our elusive, very mysterious Twitter poll this week is: should Arnold and Gerald continue the trash day tradition? Now, hold on. Are we thinking should, or do you think that they would?
Oh, yeah, I guess that's why I thought of them as different things. Oh, yeah, I think I just typed it wrong. Yeah, I think I want it to be...
Do they? Like, do you think...
Will Arnold and Gerald continue the trash day tradition?
Because I think objectively it's pretty easy to be like, no, of course they shouldn't. But I think it's a different question to kind of think, well, do they? Do you think they end up succumbing to it?
They were powerless, and now they will be powerful. And will they abuse that power? We know it corrupts. So.
Yeah.
I don't know, but next week we will be back to Avatar: The Last Airbender, episode 7. It is a 2-part episode, so we might just do part 1, or we might do both. We're not totally sure yet, so I think when we finish watching the first one, we'll decide if it's like we must continue, or if it's conclusive enough, we'll leave it.
I can't quite remember how continuous this is, because there's some that are...
Winter solstice is the theme.
I just don't remember the details of it well enough off the top of my head. So if we watch the first one and we're like, nope, we absolutely can't stop there.
I think what it is it's 2 episodes happening at the same time, like overlapping.
Oh, that sounds plausible. We'll see.
Yeah, indeed.
But yeah, always good to get back to that. Again, be sure to find us on all of our social media. We've got a Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. You can find us on all of them.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in, and we're here it's almost live from Chicago. It's been fun, always fun to do these in person, so thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.